Hello YouTube, Trinity here, giving you guys another deck profile, this time for a Cardfight Vanguard. Unfortunately, my next deck profile was supposed to be not Baromagnes, but it was supposed to be Zeus, but there was an error in the order, so we're going to be giving a deck profile that I've been extensively testing. It's a little late, because I've been testing it both online and IRL, trying to find the perfect ratios of what I like to make this deck work consistently, not only aggressively, but defensively as well, and I think I found... Basically, this is what works, I think, best for the deck. Now, there's a lot of ways you can make Baromagnes, but I think this is the most consistent way to get 15 soul or even 20 soul on your first grade 3 ride. So that being said, we'll get on with the deck profile. We have the original starter, Uncanny Burning, from the ride line, your generic D starter. We have the new ride line grade 1 and 2. When rode upon, you soul charge 2. Give Vanguard +5, Soul Charge 2. You may choose a card from your soul and pull out the rear. And then last but not least, we have the new Baromagnes. He's basically the same as the old one, but they added an additional effect and changed how his power works. And during your turn, he gets 5,000 power for every card with Baromagnes in the soul. Then when attacking, counterblast 1 and perform all the following equal to the number of cards in soul. I believe it's 10 or more, you get the draw and he gets a crit. And 15 or more, use the same effect as before. Put as many rear guards into the soul as you want. It does not choose all of them, so you can choose not to put certain ones in. This does not get around resist like the previous one did, but this way you can keep your brainwash swirlers on the field. And then 20 or more in soul, your opponent has to guard 3 or more from their hand. That is it for the ride line. I really like the new ride line. I feel like this should have been it originally, but we'll move on to the main deck. Next, for grade 3s, I'm running 3 copies of Baromagnes just for the Persona ride, just for his own power gain. This could also be another soul charger in the deck. I think having him in the deck has really been helpful because it helps Baromagnes himself hit just a better number. And then we play 1 copy of Morax. He is our deck recycler. Again, you could run 2 Morax or any way you want, but 1 has been working out just fine. He's not one of the guys I want to see called. He's more so a card I'd rather be soul charged. And that is all for the grade 3 lineup. It's just a very low count of 3 Persona and 1 Recycler. Next, we'll move on to the heavy count in the deck, which is where most of my techs are. The grade 2s. 1 copy of the FR Lilac Slasher. His card is only 1. Some players like to run 2, sometimes 3. I see it enough at 1, and it's very a card that I'll call when I'm pushing for game, and just I'll call him out from the soul or I'll call from hand. And if I discard him, I'll put him in the soul with another card. It's just I don't want too many because he does not soul charge, and I want to get the 15 soul as fast as possible. But I do want the beater in the deck. His ability is when he attacks, he gets 2,000 power for every card in the soul. If I have a Vanguard Baromagnes. We'll move on. We'll play 2 copies of a card that I originally dropped, but ended up putting back in. Cutting Sword Dancer. I will not even attempt to pronounce that name besides that, but his effect is, when placed, you may perform one of the following, equal to the number of cards in your soul. 7 or more, counterblast discard a card from your hand, choose a card from your soul and add it to your hand, and if you do, soul charge. So this can be a way to, if you have a really weird hand and you need to live another turn, you can kind of grab your perfect guards from your soul, and because you have such a low hand, your perfect guards additional effect normally do trigger. You could also use this to recycle Persona rides or grab bracket brainwash. It's just a really good way to add back pieces from your deck. And then his other effect is if you have 13 or more, you get front row 5k for the turn. It is not red text, so it only gives it to the cards currently on the board. Next, this card really hurt me to cut a little bit, but 3 has been working out fine. I'm playing 3 copies of the original Selfish Engraver. She is our on-hit soul charge, and then you may put it to soul of 10 or more and counter charge. She is our counter charge in the deck, and she is just a really good card. Next, we'll move on to the bread and butter of the deck. These grade 2s are the absolute bread and butter. We'll start off with the new grade 2. Monotony Stillness Shirin. When placed, you can basically put a card from your drops into the soul as long as you have a Vanguard Baromagnes, or if you reveal Baromagnes in the ride deck, and if you're grade 3 or greater, I believe she gets 5k. Keep in mind, I'm not reading this upside down. I'm going off memory. So, yeah. And then when she's put to the soul from your rear guard with the effect of Baromagnes, draw a card. I stand by this. I know why I can understand why they didn't do this. I feel like this card should have just been when you soul charge her. If you have Baromagnes, draw 1 card. I understand why they did not. But at the same time, Baromagnes has like no hand. So like it would have been nice if you could just soul charge this and draw and try to dig in pieces. Overall, this is still a really good card. It would probably be a triple rare if it did that. But yeah. And then finally, the most important grade 2 of the deck, Hardening Insight. He is our 25k beater. He Energy Blast to Soul Charge to Recycle 2 and Soul Charge 2. They have to be normal units. And he's just a really good beater, and he just helps turbo the soul. And that's all for the grade 2 lineup. We'll move on to the grade 1s. The best grade 1 in the entire deck. Well, we'll start with him. Of course, you know and you love him. 4 copies of Brainwash Swirler. When placed, Soul Charge 1. If you have a Vanguard with, if you have a grade 3 rated Vanguard, this card gets plus 5k. Every time a card is Soul Charged, you get 5s, basically. So he can just become super big. He's my favorite card in all of Dark States. I wish more Dark States that could incorporate him. Good, at least, because, yeah, the only ones that really make use of him is Baromagnes because of how much it Soul Charges, and grade 4 Bruce OTK, which is no longer a deck, but I had a lot of fun success with that. Maybe I'll do a deck profile on that in the future. Unrivaled Bruce is no longer good. Unfortunately, it's too slow. If they gave us a card to Superior Ride to give us Final Rush on turn 3, it would be too strong. So it is what it is. We'll move on to the next grid 1. This is our most important piece, one of our most important puzzles pieces. We need 4 copies of Direful Doll Adamandi. She is effect if you have 10 or more cards in Soul, she gets 10k. So she's a 18k booster or beater. 28k if she calls off Borrow. And her better effect is Act. Counterblast 1, increase all soul charges by 1 this turn. You want to see her so you can get your soul to 20. And of course, we're running the best card in all of Dark States. Card that I used to run in the ride line itself before we got this really good new ride line. I'm running, of course, talking about Flaming Pony. 4 copies of Flaming Pony. Soul, pretty simple fact, bind this card and soul charge 2. So Pony is just there to turbo our soul and to get to grade 20 to 15 as fast as possible. And that is it for the grade 1 lineups. Besides the next card, obviously, which is self-explanatory for Perfect Guards. For this, no Elementaria. I was running it originally, but I found this is just better for this build. I just put it in another deck. Just because your hand size is always like 6 at most of the time, that like this is the card that you're going to need to get there. I did find it, actually, ironically, right before this deck profile, I was playing on CFA, testing Favoniel just for shits and giggles. And I ended up running into someone, Chaos something, RT Chaos. And they were playing a deck that was mostly the order variant that I used to run. But they were on no heals and just pure aggression. Although, I don't really think that's the best way to do it, because I know Borrow has no hand, and your goal is to OTK, but it's good to just have a backup plan, just in case. I think it's good to have the Chegria and the Perfect Guards, just in case something goes wrong and you have to play tempo game. Next, we'll move on. I'm running 1 copy of Overtrigger, clearly the Dark States one. This could be the blue OT. I have been experimenting with that online. I don't actually own it because I sold my copy to a friend at Regionals. I need to pick up another one, and I think it's going to go into Unica first. But again, this works just as fine. Again, the only reason I'd run the blue OT over this is to get a little more recursion. You still get the crit off it, which is fine, but just to get that little recursion, it might be what you need to get back one of your puzzle pieces you've unfortunately had to discard. And again, if you don't have the blue OT, Dark States OT works just fine, and even red OT probably, or yellow OT. I don't think purple OT would be the one I would go for, but again, this can work with anything. 1 vanilla draw trigger. I want to deck thin as much as possible to get my pieces. So I'm running 1 vanilla draw and then 4 Wild Master Redleys. Now, I know I'm decking out really good, really fast. So with the OT, that's technically a 6 draw lineup because you'll draw off the OT if you damage check it. Just because I want to be able to draw into my puzzle pieces and deck thin. You could drop this for a crit if you really want, but I like having the 1 of. Just because I really like the artwork too. Anyway, moving on. We have two vanilla crits. We have 4 Steam Slasher. And then finally, last but not least, we'll speed through the deck profile for Heal Trigger. And that is it for my Baromagnes Turbo deck profile. I hope you like it. It's actually been doing really well for me in testing, both IRL and online. I think I have like a 80% win rate with it. It's been doing really well. I'm planning to take it to locals next time I get a chance to go up. Just for fun. The last time I played this at a locals was up at I think Bluebell and Gamers have it up in somewhere in Philly and Coreyville, not Coreyville. I forget. But yeah, I went up there and that was like set 7 and set 9. I got first place twice, and then the next time I took it, I think at Bluebell, I scrubbed out because my opponent kept hitting the defensive OT on the OTK card. But like, it was really fun. I'm really happy with the new support. It's been really good. There's a lot of ways you can make it. I think that's the most consistent way to do his effect while still having some recursion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm down for more suggestions. I'll see you in the next video. Sorry to ramble on. Have a great day. Bye.